Most people think channeling means seeing visions or hearing spirits speak to you out loud, but that's not how it works for me, and it might not be how it works for you. And just because we don't see visions or hear voices from spirit doesn't mean that spirit's not contacting us or that we don't have other ways of channeling. What I personally experience is much deeper, quieter, more subtle, and maybe a little more real. Just kidding. I feel truth in my body. In other words, I know things before I can explain them or make sense of them. And sometimes when I speak, it's not always me who's speaking. All of that is channeling too. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through what channeling really is, how it works in the body, and the 6 core intuitive senses, what we also call the clairs. I'll also talk a little bit more in depth about how I personally channel, how psychic ability actually works contrary to the stigma and what a lot of people think, and how it's actually a very real part of the way our bodies work as instruments to tap into wisdom that's not immediately available in front of us in a tangible physical way or in a mental way, but part of something bigger, part of the deeper, more complex and interconnected fabric of our existence on this planet and in the universe that we live in, and why most people block their ability to do so without even realizing. But real quick, if you're new here, hi, my name is Rose. This channel is where we talk healing, self-trust, nervous system safety, and the truth beneath the surface. All right, let's get into it. So I think channeling is deeply, deeply misunderstood. Whether that was intentional way back when or not, it is something that a lot of people have projected sort of extremes onto, and a lot of us dismiss it because culturally we're not really taught how to do it. We are collectively and culturally so much more accustomed to survival consciousness and fear-based thinking that we cut off our access to channeling and to higher states of consciousness. Fear and anxiety literally block intuition. They compete for your awareness, right? Fear and survival-based thinking are technically guidance in a way, but they are necessary only in survival, right? Unfortunately, we have become so adept at just operating in survival mode even when we don't need to be in survival. Intuition, on the other hand, is also guidance. It is higher states of consciousness, guidance toward love and truth, where when we don't have immediate danger in our environment, we are technically supposed to be able to access these higher states of consciousness via parasympathetic nervous system. So we have the nervous system and we have parasympathetic nervous system. The nervous system is our fight or flight response. It is there to keep us safe when we are experiencing danger. And then we have parasympathetic. This is our rest and digest. This is there when we're not in danger. This is what helps us sleep, recover, process, digest, all of those things. The parasympathetic nervous system is our gateway into higher states of being. Channeling is really just the act of receiving guidance or insight that is beyond the thinking mind. This could be from spirit, this could be from your soul, your own soul, or it could just simply be from collective truth, higher consciousness. This is not reserved for mediums or psychics. We all are mediums and psychics. Not everyone knows that or believes that or is connected to that. But this is part of being human. We've just been collectively cut off from these gifts that we have. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, and many ancient traditions described a higher consciousness or a universal intelligence that exists beyond the material world. I like to think of it as like a very vast library of knowledge and truth. But it's not just a library. Within it consists of many, many things, such as ancestral wisdom, your higher self, my higher self, everyone's higher self, individual souls, some of which may have lived on Earth at one point or not, and the intelligence of the soul field itself. And it's not out there. It is literally right here and in here. We are part of it. We're basically cells of a much bigger living organism. That's the best way to possibly say it. So there are 6 core intuitive channels, what we call the clairs. Everyone has them. I don't care if you don't think you do, you do. I promise you that. But you may be stronger in 1 or 2 clairs more than others, and I'll talk more about mine as well. The first one we call clairvoyance, and this can be translated to clear seeing. So this is when a person has the ability to see visions, see symbols, perhaps even see aberrations, either in your mind's eye or externally. You might receive visual intuitive downloads during a meditation, while speaking to someone or writing, or even symbolic flashes, visual flashes when you're thinking about someone. For example, you might speak about someone's grandma and start visualizing white roses or something like that. You might hear of mediums who, when channeling, they talk about what they're visualizing. Oh, I see a heart necklace that was left in a drawer. That's clairvoyance. This is a very classical type of channeling or mediumship that we often think of. Next, we have clairaudience. And this is hearing tones, words, or phrases, not with your ears, but through your intuitive channel. For some people, it sounds like your own voice. For others, it might sound like other voices. But either way, it's always very clear the message doesn't come from the mind. It's not coming from the imagination or your usual inner narrator. For example, this might be like hearing it's time to go in your mind if there's danger around you, or hearing, someone's not doing well, or you should text so-and-so. Hearing those phrases, knowing, oh my gosh, I need to act on that right now. And knowing it didn't come from your mind. It didn't just come from, oh, I miss her, I should check in with her, but something else, someone else telling you or guiding you. The third is clairsentience. This is when your body itself becomes the instrument. You may feel truth or spiritual messages or presence physically, emotionally, energetically, and somatically. So this is where you pick up other people's energy, moods, subconscious mental content, grief or presence before they even speak. This is a really big one for me, and we will definitely talk more about that in a little bit. The next one is claircognizance, and this is clear knowing. Claircognizance is when you just know. This is what I personally would think of as like your gut feeling. Like your gut is just like, no, the answer is no, or yes, or I need to leave. You don't hear it, you don't see it, you don't feel it somatically. It's just, I just know. I just know the answer. I don't know why I know, but I just know. There's no logic, no analysis. It just is truth that lands. You just know. So for example, this might be like making big life decisions, or, and just knowing what the right decision is. Sometimes it's also like knowing whether you can trust people or not. This is also like streams of consciousness, people who write poetry or intuitive writing, where just wisdom comes out. It's often expressive in nature in that way. Knowing what to say, having access to this clear inner truth and knowing and being able to express it. The next one is clairaudience, and this is clear smelling. This one is significantly less common. I personally did not know this was a thing, but I guess it makes sense that there would be clear channeling for all of our senses and abilities as humans. But this is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Having the ability to channel the smell of something. So if someone's recalling an experience, or maybe even channeling for someone else, they may be able to smell something specific to connect with a spirit or so on. Also, again, just like the others, be used to keep you safe, to protect you. So someone might be able to smell like perfume or smoke or flowers or whatever. Often connected to spirit presence or memory activation. The final one is clairgustance, and this is clear tasting. Very similar to clairaudience, but the taste, also really rare, but real. And this is the ability to just taste what's not physically there. So just like clairaudience, this is often common in spirit, in mediumship, channeling someone or something and describing a situation via taste, wine, blood, tobacco, and so on. any kind of taste that could come up to symbolize messages from spirit or the field itself. Okay, so let's get back to clairsentience, because this is a really big one for me. This is how I channel, how I connect with spirit. So this can look like when I've thought about my future, I often cry. Not because I'm actually like emotionally crying, but like tears just roll from my face. Like literally it's more of like tearing profusely. I will get goosebumps and chills. Those are the most common somatic responses that I will get. I had one true mediumship experience in my life, and this was very much not something I typically do or open myself up to. Not because I don't want to, but it's just not something I feel like I came here to do as much. But there was an experience that I took a little bit of mushrooms, and I was not like really tripping or hallucinating, but I did go inward, close my eyes. I was sitting on my yoga mat and I closed my eyes, and a woman that actually was friends with my mom, probably about 5 years ago, maybe even more at this point, she had passed away. And she was someone who I just always had a really strong connection with. We like an unspoken like respect for each other during a time in my life that I certainly did not have a lot of respect from adults or understanding or recognition. And there was just sort of this really nice like bond there. And anyway, she had passed away. We were never that close in real time, but it was just like a, you know, our souls got each other. It just felt like something real. So she passed away. And then randomly, like at least a year later, but probably more, maybe 2 or 3 years later, I was alone in my apartment. I was on the mushrooms, and she came to me. I knew it was her energy. There was absolutely no question about it. And I started crying profusely for 45 minutes with her. I absolutely, to this day, know I was crying with this woman. I assume that this is just a fragment of her soul that was still stuck in the earth realm, in the physical dimension. Perhaps she needed to be witnessed. Maybe there was grief or some confusion after her death, and she found me in this perfect moment in time where I was in a state of consciousness with the help of my mushrooms that I had taken. And she found me, she felt me, and her emotion came through me. And I know that I do think partially I was crying with her because I have extreme empathy, and I think that when I feel anyone else's soul that deeply, and I witness anyone else's grief, it is so raw and so real. And of course I cried with her, but I wasn't crying because of my grief. I did not know this woman enough to grieve her death. I never cried because of her loss. My mom did. My mom grieved her death, and I supported my mom through that, but I never had that close of a relationship to her. This was me grieving with her as I witnessed her, and I recognized her soul, and I honored her soul and her life here with her, so that I could liberate her, and so that she could move on safely towards the light. Anyway, this was also a clairsentient experience because this was not a visual thing. I knew it was her energy. I don't know why I knew, but I just knew. There may have been some visual, and it may have been supplemented by the mushrooms, but it wasn't like a clear, I saw her face. It was more like a shadow in my mind. In my mind's eye, I knew she wasn't in my physical space, but more in the ether with me, in another dimension that's existing right parallel to our physical dimension. And I just felt her. I knew she was there. I knew she was crying, and I knew she was sad and needed to be seen and held for a minute. And so that's exactly what I did. That is like the truest sense of mediumship that I've ever experienced. But yeah, that was a clairsentient experience. Even the emotion was also, I mean, it's very possible too that my crying as a way of processing and releasing truth and spirit is very much a clairsentient like symptom or reaction. For me, my body and the way that it's designed, I cannot handle so much channeling or that kind of spirit contact without literally crying because it just is such a somatic experience for me. So to clarify, it's not about being emotional. It's just the way that your body physiologically responds to something interacting with your auric field and with your energy. It's just the way that the body works as a channel or a vessel in that way. Some people just hear it auditorily, some people see things visually, and other people just feel it viscerally, somatically, emotionally. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between empathy and clairsentience, because they're really similar and definitely connected, but they are not the same thing. A lot of people on this planet would consider themselves an empath, and probably a lot of people are. When we talk about empathy, especially in modern day, we're really talking about emotional sensitivity. My ability to put myself in someone else's shoes and literally feel or imagine what someone else must feel in a certain situation, and so on. And that, by the way, is such a gift. It is such an important part of humanity and of our evolution. So this is learned behavior. This is social, and it's rooted in emotional awareness. Clairsentience, on the other hand, is intuitive. It's not, I understand how you feel. It's, I physically hold what you're holding, whether I want to or not, and before you even say a word. So a lot of empaths are clairsentient, but not all. Typically, if you are clairsentient, you are an extreme empath. But just because you're an empath doesn't mean that you're clairsentient necessarily. Perhaps you have access to or ability to, if you were to refine that or to open up your intuitive channel, but you access clairsentience through intuition. You access empathy through social awareness. So again, this is when your body becomes the receiver of emotion, well, all energy, emotion being one branch of energy, but mental content, literally just the texture of energy in a moment. There's so much more under the umbrella of just energy beyond emotion. It could be tension, stress, presence, spirit, the presence of spirit, truth. And again, it's not because you're imagining it, you're not visualizing, you're not hearing it, but you're feeling it somatically. Another way to distinguish the two is empathy responds to what's visible or tangible in the physical dimension. Clairsentience responds to what's invisible and unspoken. You don't need anyone to say a word. Someone shows up and you have all the information already available to you because it's in your body and you're responding somatically. Empathy is relational. Clairsentience is energetic. Two different dimensions. Connected potentially, again, clairsentient beings are almost always naturally empathic, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's all the other way around. And if a clairsentient person is empathic, it's still coming from a different angle. How do I channel personally? Like I said, for me, it's a blend of two. I am very strong in clairsentience and claircognizance. Claircognizance is how I personally navigate my life. I was recently talking to my friend about how, am I a good decision maker? Like, am I one of those people who likes to make quick decisions and feels confident in my ability to make decisions, or do I like to reflect and think about things? And I was like, you know what's so interesting is with big, important life decisions, I've gotten to a place where I make decisions incredibly fast. But it's because it's not coming from the mind. My claircognizance has gotten so loud and clear that I'm confident in making decisions quickly, and it responds very quickly. So I know when to leap. I know when to pivot. I know when to do X, Y, Z. It's really obvious to me because that inner wisdom speaks really loud, like a compass that's just always there right in front of me, or at least when I need it. But on the other hand, I was telling my friend, for like trivial decisions, like what ice cream flavor do I want? Or like, what should I get on the menu? Like things that don't matter, I'm like so bad at making decisions unless I'm really tapping into that claircognizance, but it's not as loud when it's not that important. I think claircognizance is also how I channel in real time, often with recording my videos or writing too. I often get downloads and streams, and I write and speak often from a place of, I have no idea where this is coming from, but I know that this is real and I feel it in my bones. When your fear finally quiets down and you reach a point of nervous system safety and regulation, your intuition will speak to you and it will guide you towards these higher states of consciousness, towards truth. And truth comes through us in a multitude of ways. And these are just some of the ways that they can come through to us. And when you do finally get to that point, you'll realize this is something that was always there. You just didn't feel safe enough to listen or trust it. So if you've ever felt something that you couldn't quite explain, or if you've just somehow known things before they've happened, or if your body reacts to truth before your mind can catch up, you're not imagining it. You're channeling. And I just got goosebumps. And this is not rare. I mean, well, maybe the tasting and the smelling are. But channeling in general, not rare. Again, our bodies are instruments. So it's more that it's just rare that people are learning how to use them. But maybe we are part of a bigger movement that's moving towards remembering who we really are and what our bodies are capable of. And what our universe really is. And how much more complex it is than just this physical dimension. Being a human is it's a bigger deal than we think. And we are more magical and gifted than we realize. So I'd love to know, what clair do you think is the strongest in you, and how does it show up for you in your life? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet already, please subscribe to my channel to support me on this journey. I will be posting a lot more content like this, so stay tuned. I hope you have the most beautiful day or evening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.